Hello everyone and welcome to C++ programming demo class. So what is a C++ programming? C++ is a general purpose programming language which is derived from C programming language, and it has object-oriented concepts. It is one of the most popular programming language in the world, which is used everywhere. You can use in e-commerce website, in a web search, or SQL Server, or most of the big projects are built on C++. So here, let's see how to first install IDE and then we'll write some code. You can use Visual Studio to write the code for C++. You can open this website visualstudio.microsoft.com, and here you can download Community Edition. Just click on this and download and install this. So this is Visual Studio. Now let's see how to create a project. Create a new project. You can select here console app, then next, then specify the name, demo project, then create. So here is the code generated. Now to run this, we use our shortcut is F5. Just let's run this application and see the output. And you can see the output here. So here, let's add here I'll use namespace here, standard. So I don't have to type here std every time. Now let's save it and run this again and see the output here. Hello world. Okay, so here I'll remove this part and I'll create a variable. Let's create here a variable age. Now let's ask the user to enter your age. So this is the message to the user. Then I'll take input from the user using cin and age, and then I'll just print it back. A very simple program I'm writing here. Your age is age. Now let's test this program. Enter your age, and your age is this. Simple. So you can write this kind of code. Usually we create here class object. Okay, we use inheritance concept, we use polymorphism concept here, because C++ is an object-oriented programming. So what is a class? Class, like here you can see, this is a basic data type. Integer is a basic data type that can store integer value. So we have a derived data type like an array, or then we have a user-defined data type which we define ourselves. For example, I want to represent a car in a system, or a mobile, or whatever object you can see surrounding. So it is possible in C++ or any other object-oriented programming language. So let's represent an employee, and now when we have an employee has some properties and methods, or we call it function. So employee has a name, age, salary, department, all these things, and employees do some work. We can assign some work, report, all these things. So here, how to create a class. Class is a user-defined data type. Using the class, we can create the object. So to create a class here, you can right click on the project, add class, and let's give the name here employee. Press OK. Now it will generate header file and C++ file. So here is the header file where we can declare. So here I'll declare the properties. Employee has a name. I'll create an array of characters. Employee has a name and age and salary. So these are the properties of employee, and we can add different properties. So in this example I'm taking only very few properties. So by default these properties are private. It means we cannot access these properties outside of this class. So block starts from here, ends here. So within this scope we can access these things. And if you want to access outside, you can just make it public. So I'll not make it public, let it be like this. Now I'll create some functions, but these functions I want to make it public so that it is accessible outside the class. The first function I'll write here a constructor, parameterized constructor, so that we can initialize these properties. Constructor is a special function whose name is same as class name. So here what are the things we have to initialize? I have to initialize here name. So I'll create here name, and in a function we usually pass constant name, pointer constant, then age and salary. I'll declare one more function to display all these properties. Display. So here only declaration. Now where to define these functions? We must define these functions. So employee.cpp. Here we define these functions. So first we have to specify the class name. So here scope resolution operator and then name of the function. So function, it is a constructor, so which is employee constructor. Now to access here you can see the name, age and salary. So here we have a this pointer. It will internally create a this pointer. So here I can use this because it is a pointer to access the properties, the value inside this. We use this operator. So you can see here this name. Now I have to initialize this name whatever user has sent. Here I'll use a function. So strcpy and then pass this name. But then you can see the error here, right? So what I can do, let's include string .h because this function is inside this header file. So this is a built-in function which copy the see, this is the source and this is the destination. So whatever user passed, that value I'll store, I'll copy and paste in this value, which is the class property. Because it is a string, I have to use string copy. Now another is age. So here let's access age. I can directly specify here. The third one is salary, and then let's initialize this. Okay. Another function is display function. So you can see here display function. Let's give the definition of this display. So first return type, then name of the class. Name of the class is here employee. Then scope resolution operator and then name of the function. So here I'll use cout. Let's print here name, age and then salary. Alright, now see this, we have to include another header file here, IO stream. So let's include this. Another thing we have to do using namespace standard. Now no problem, no error. So in this header file all the declaration of the math functions, and then in this file we define all the functions. Now let's go to main function here, and then let me just remove this part. I'll create the object of this employee class. Before that I have to bring this here. So let's include it, and then here it is employee.h. Now see here we have to use double quotes, not this angle bracket, because here, because it's a part of the project, so it will search inside the current directory, not in standard path. Now let's create instance. So here we have employee. Let's create E1 and then pass the property. The first one is name, then we have salary, age, and then we have salary. Because this is an object, so if I use dot operator, I can access all the things. So currently we have only one method function, which is display, because this is accessible outside. Now if I go here and let's go to header file, make it public, which means these all the things under this are accessible outside the class. Now let's go back here and then again press start. Now you can see here age, name and salary all are visible, but usually properties we keep private only. So this should not be accessible outside the class because it's the data we have to save, right? Yeah, functionality wise, functions should be accessible outside the class. Okay, now let's call display function. I'll save and then run this program. Now see, you can see there is one error. Alright, here we have small error. Let's save it. Alright, now you can see here name, age and salary. So we can create as many objects as we want, and even we can create an array of objects here. Now let's extend the functionality of this class. I'll create another class and call it manager, and manager, because manager has a name, age, salary. These things are common as because manager is also an employee. So these properties and functions we can get from this class instead of writing in manager class. So I'll use inheritance concept here. Again, create a class, add new class and call it manager. So base class I can write here employee. So access public, private, or there are three ways we can access: publicly, private or protected. So I'll access public. If I access private, so everything become private. Now let's create it. Now here you can see manager header file. So class is manager and then it is extending the features from employee class. So public, employee. Now I don't have to write these properties here, which is name, age and salary, because anyway manager also has a name, age and salary. But as we are using inheritance here, so we will use those properties from this class. But what are the other things of a manager? So here let me just add a property, team members, or let's say number of team members, project name, now let's change here public, because here I want to create functions. Here I'll use function overriding concept. So I'll create another function here which is the same name of display. Now let's save it and then go to manager and then I'll define these functions. So manager, and then here you can see we have, okay, so one more thing here. First is constructor, so let's create a constructor here. Now here we have to initialize team member. This is the one property. Another property is project name. Let's give here constant. But what about the name, age and salary? So those properties also we have to pass. So here you can see name, age and salary. Because here employee is a base class or super class for manager. So from this class only we pass this property. So here I'll pass. Now let's create a constructor here, these properties. Then we have, let me just copy it. Now here I'll use this team members, this let's include string class and we'll using namespace standard. Now these properties name, age and salary we have to pass to employee class. So how to pass? Here you have to go and then pass these properties name, age and salary. So here we specify the name of the class. Now name, age and salary we pass to employee class, and the other properties which is team members and project name we initialized in manager class. Now second function is, let's use scope resolution operator and call display. Alright, let's print team members. Alright, another we need here include IO stream. So first employee is a base class here where we have a name, age, salary and a display function. Then manager which gets the properties from employee class because we inherit as a public. So public will become public, private will become private, anyway you cannot inherit. Protected will become protected if it is there. So here only this property we specify which belongs to employee, and name and age these property will take from the employee class. So manager has a team member and project name and then initialize. Now let's go to main function and then now I'll not create employee. Let's comment this part. I'll create the object of manager class. Manager. Let's call it M1, but then here before that we have to include it. So let's include manager. Then we have to pass, first we have to pass name, then we have to pass age, then we have to pass salary, then team member, let's say it is 10, and then name of the project C++ project. Alright, now let's access this display function. I'll save it and let's run this application. And you can see the output here. It's printing team member, project name. But now what about the name and age and salary? So if you go here in manager class, here you can see a function display. And if you go to employee class, here also display function. Basically this function is overridden. So we are overriding here. And when we do that, it will call only this definition. So here only we have to call the display of the employee class. So how to call? Just use here scope resolution operator and display. Inside this class we have to call this. Now let's run this again. And this time it's printing everything. Name, age, salary, team member, project name. So this is a very small example of inheritance. This is a single inheritance where manager get other properties and function from employee class. So we don't have to write it again. Like that we'll see different concepts, polymorphism. Anyway, this method, this function overriding is a part of polymorphism.